Everyone, welcome back to the online classes of physics. This is your name, Miss, back again with the class of laws of motion. In our previous class, we have learned about the law, second law, first law. Sorry, we have learned about the first law. In today's class, we are going to learn about the second law, Newton's second law. Firstly, I would like to request all the students to kindly go through the textbooks after reading, after going through the video, and try to understand the concept, as it is very important in your life. To make your life, you have to first make your studies go up. Okay? So let's give a thumbs up for the studies and start with the Newton's second law. So in our first law, we have learned about the Newton's first law. We have learned that every object will remain at rest or in a uniform state unless compelled to change its state by the action of any net force. And in second law, we are going to learn that what happens to an object when a non-zero force forces on it. Okay, suppose a ball is at rest. Okay, a ball is at rest. Then when you are hitting the ball, what is happening with this ball, we are going to learn. Okay, when you are hitting the ball, what is happening to this ball, we are going to learn in the second law of Newton. We see a small bullet from the gun damages the wall only due to its high speed. Right? When you see a bullet coming out of this small gun, you see that it damages, it damages very, it damages a lot. When you see that bullet is coming out of your gun, it damage, whatever the damage we see is large. Okay, we see is large. Why? Because of the high speed it is coming out. Because of the high speed at what it is coming out from the gun. If you see a large truck, okay, if you see a large truck, this truck damage is more when we compare it to the, when we compare this damage to the bicycle. When you compare this with the bicycle, you can see that the damage here which is causing to the wall is less by the bicycle, whereas damage caused by this truck is more, isn't it? Yes. So why this is happening? This is all done by the concept called momentum. What it is? By the concept called momentum. This is all because of the momentum, which is usually used, expressed or denoted by a symbol P. Okay. So momentum is also given, is also called as linear momentum. So here we can say that momentum is nothing but it is denoted by P, right? It is denoted by P. Now, from the whatever example I said about the gun and about the, damaging the wall, we can say that it depends on the two factors. Momentum depends on the two factors. That is nothing but one is mass of the object and other is its velocity. Okay, mass of the object, like which mass, like you see I have said already regarding the truck and the, I have to talk about the bicycle. When these two are coming and hitting up the wall, you see that the damage caused is to the wall less with the bicycle, wherein you see that bicycle itself get damaged, whereas truck is not damaged but it damages the wall more when compared to the bicycle. So that means mass also depends on the momentum and velocity. If you see a gun, the speed of the gun, the bullet which is coming out of the gun, that also causes the damage a lot, right? So here the momentum depends upon the mass and velocity. Mass and velocity. So we can say that the momentum of any body depends upon the mass and velocity. So this momentum is nothing but it's a vector because velocity is a vector. We already know that velocity has only one direction and magnitude. So we can say that the momentum, as it is involving the velocity here, we can directly say that it is a vector. Okay, it's a vector quantity. Directly we can say that it's a vector quantity. Fine. Then the direction of momentum is in the direction of velocity. So the SI units of momentum are, SI units you can say kg minus meters per second, or also you can give it as newtons. So here we can say that Newton's second law states that the rate of change of momentum of an object is proportional to the net force applied on the object in the direction of net force. So you can say that net force is directly proportional to change in momentum by time. So we can write it as like this. If you see the formula, change means we'll write it at like this. Change in momentum is P by time, right? We have written like this in the formatical formula. Yes. Then wherein delta P is nothing but change in momentum of a particular or a system of particle brought by the net force in a time interval, given time interval delta T. Yes. So when the symbol of proportionality is removed, then you can just remove the proportionality constant and you can write it as equal to K delta P by change in time interval. Okay, delta T. So now the SI units are nothing but, as we already know, kg meters per second, right? Or you can write it as or newtons second, right? The unit of force is so chosen that the value of constant K becomes 1. So that what will the formula be? Force of net force is equal to delta P by delta T. And we know that delta P, that is P is equal to mass into velocity. Yes, we already know that it is mass into velocity. So what we are going to do, we are just going to substitute the value. How we are going to do that? Now, as we have taken change in the momentum, we will write it as like this. Yes, we are taking change in momentum. So if the mass of the body is constant during its motion, then we can write it as, we are keeping it as mass of the constant, that is delta P is equal to mass is constant, so there is no change in mass, and we have the change in velocity, so we can write it like this, right? Then on substituting, what do we have? On substituting it into this equation, we have F net is equal to m delta V by T, delta T, right? So then we know that delta V by delta T is equal to nothing but acceleration. So we can substitute this value as acceleration. That is delta V by delta T, change in velocity and time, which is nothing but acceleration, right? That is uniform acceleration. So then we can write it as, after substituting this A here, we can write as F net is equal to ma. So this is your equation, that is F net is equal to mass into acceleration, that is net force is equal to mass into acceleration. Fine, till here second law is clear. So next we will learn about the Newton's third law of motion. So what is Newton's third law of motion? What did he say? Every object, every action has its own reaction. Fine, every action has its own equal opposite and opposite reaction. Okay, when an object exerts a force on the other object, the second object also exerts a force on the first object, which is equal in magnitude but opposite in direction. Okay. See, if you take this spring here, like how we have taken here, two springs, we are going to apply the forces on both the springs. Let us take two spring balance of equal calibration. Connect the two spring balance as shown in the figure. Now, pull the spring balance in opposite direction. We are just going to pull this in two opposite directions. Okay, two opposite directions we are going to pull it. Now, there is any change are we going to find out. So when we are pulling this in opposite directions, there is no change in the reading of spring balance. Why? We are not able to make the spring balance to show different readings by pushing them. simultaneously in opposite direction, because both are pushed, one is getting pulled in one direction and other is getting pulled in another direction. So both are having some force exerted on them, each other. So you can say that according to Newton's third law of motion, when an object exerts a force on an other object, the second object also, exerts a force on the first one, which is equal in magnitude, but they are in opposite directions. So the two opposing forces are known as action and reaction pairs. So one is called as action, the other is called as reaction. So Newton, what did you understand from this? Newton's third law explained that what happens when an object exert a force on the another object. When you are applying some force on the other object, what is happening? The Newton wants to explain you that only. Okay. That is, if two objects interact, then the force exerted by one body on the second body is FA. B. Fine. Whatever force is applied, force is, given by, exerted on the second body. This is your second body. You can say the force which is applying this first object onto the second object, you can give as FAB. And the force which is being, in reverse, what is this second body giving? You can say it as force is nothing but BA. Force BA. So when you equal it, you can see that the magnitude is equal. Here you can see the magnitude is equal, but the directions are opposite. You can see the directions are opposite. So that means you can say as FAB is equal to minus FBA. Why minus BA? Because of the direction. Because of the direction which is in opposite. So this minus sign indicates that the reacting force is acting in an opposite direction, that of the action force. Okay, so you can just say this minus sign indicates that it is an opposite direction. Fine. If you take example of birds, when the birds are flying, when they fly into the air, what do you see? That the birds, they push back the air. They push back the air with the help of their wings, and the air, what it do in reverse, what does the air do? It pushes the air bird front. Okay, it is able to fly in opposite direction. What does it do? It moves in the upward direction. Thus the force applied by the wings of the bird on air and opposite force of the air on the wings of the bird are equal in magnitude, but they are in opposite direction. They have equal magnitude, but they have opposite direction. And if you see fish also, if you see the example of fish, you see that when the fish pushes the water back, then only the water pushes the fish into opposite direction. Okay, the force applied by the water makes the fish to move forward, and the fish starts moving forward in the water. If you see the rocket also, when you see a rocket accelerates by the expelling of gas at high velocity. The reaction of force of this gas on the rocket accelerates the rocket in a direction opposite to the expelled gas. Okay, the gas is pushed down, and the whatever gas is there, it is just allowing the rocket to move up. Okay, with a high speed. If you take example balloon, just inflate the balloon and press its, you just blow the balloon and just press its neck with a finger as shown in the figure, and so that the air cannot escape from it. Pass a thread through the straw and tape the balloon on the straw. Simply just pass the straw, just this is your straw, right? Through the straw, pass the thread and tape this thread to the balloon. Okay, as shown here in the figure. Now hold one end of the thread here, simply hold the thread here and ask your friend to hold the other end of the thread. Okay, now release the air, just remove your finger and release the air from the balloon by removing finger from the neck of the balloon. Now the balloon moves like a rocket towards the other end of the thread. You have tape here, right? You are holding the thread like this. Simply the balloon will move from here to this position. Okay, here it will move, right? This involves the third law of motion. Okay, as the air in the balloon moves backward, the balloon moves forward. As in the air in the balloon, it moves backward, the balloon moves forward. Fine. So let us learn about the action and reaction forces on two different surfaces. As you see in the figure, we are just going to arrange it like this. We are just going to take a test tube and put a small amount of water in it. Then just place a rubber cork cap at its mouth. We are just going to close the test tube and now suspend the test tube horizontally to a stand with the help of two strings. Okay, and now we are just going to heat it. Heat the test tube with a Bunsen burner until water vaporizes and the rubber cork blows out. So what is happening, how when we are heating, how this rubber cork is falling down, how it is coming down. Here we observe the movement of test tube when the cork cap blows out. As the cork cap blows out in forward direction, the test tube recoils back. We see that test tube is moving forward as there is a pressure, there is some reaction by the air, gas or the vapors whatever which are formed in the test tube. We can observe that velocity of the copper cap and recoil of the test tube will be the same. Now how this has happened we will learn through the conservation of momentum and impulse. So let us assume two objects with masses m1 and m2. Okay, and they are traveling with different velocities u1 and u2 along some same direction and in a straight line. If u1 is greater than u2, they collide with each other and collision lasts for the time taken as t. Okay, it takes for time t. This collision is taking place for the time t, which is very small. During collision, the first marble exerts a force on the second marble F2. Okay, and the second marble exerts force, that is, if you see this collision of two objects, you can say that the first object exerts pressure of F2 and second of F1. Okay. So let V1 and V1 be the velocities of the object, V1 and V2 be the velocities. That is, M1 and M2 are the masses, U1 and U2 are the velocities of this when they are in a straight line. Now they have collided. After colliding, we are taking it as V1 and V2 as the velocities of the marbles after collision. So as shown in the figure here, you can see that the collision of the masses of the collision of the marbles you can see here. So if you take the momentum of the object before the collision, you can write it as m1 u1 m2 u2, right? After collision, you can write it as m1 v1 and m2 v2, right? Then if you see the change in momentum, you can write it as m1 v1 minus m1 u1 and m2 v2 minus m2 u2, right? This will be your change in momentum. If you see the rate of change in momentum, that is, we have learned about the formula, right? What was that? We will substitute it m1 v1 minus m1 u1 by t. And if you see with the second after collision of marble 2, you can write it as m2 v2 minus m2 u2 by t, right? So according to the Newton's third law of motion, the force exerted by the first marble on the second is equal to the force exerted by the second marble on the first one. So here is nothing but every action has an equal and opposite reaction, right? So that is, we get delta P, that is change in momentum of first by T, is equal to minus, because it is in opposite direction, delta P2 by T. Right? It's clear here. So while substituting, we will get m1 v1 minus m1 u1 by t is equal to minus minus m2 v2 minus m2 u2 by t, right? So after solving this, we will get m1 v1 minus m2 u2 plus, sorry, is equal to m1 v1 plus m2 v2. Is it clear here? Shall I write it up again? So that is nothing but this is the marble momentum before the collision, and this is after the collision, right? Before collision, after collision. So we see that there is no change in the momentum both before and after. So the total momentum is equal to, no, you can see that there is the before and after momentums are unchanged. So we say that the momentum is conserved. So law of conservation states that in the absence of net external force on the system, the moment of the system remains unchanged. There is no change. A system is said to be isolated when net external force acting on it is zero. So when there is no external force acting on the object, the momentum is said to be zero. There is no disturbance. Okay. If we now see about the impulse, you can say that a softer or more cushioned landing surface provides a greater stopping distance. See, for example, if you are throwing a ball on the harder surface, suppose you are throwing the ball on the wall, okay, the ball hits you back with a high speed, right? So there is a high speed. If the same ball you are hitting up on some soft, your bed or the cushion or the pillow, what will happen? The ball will stop with a less speed. There is no speed, you can see it will stop slowly, it will stop. So that means the rate of change of momentum will be less, so that the force of impact on the ball will be reduced. Fine. If there is less force, then you can see that the impact of the ball will also get reduced. The speed coming back also will be reduced. So with this we can write the net force is equal to delta P by delta T. So in order to minimize this, you have to maximize the stopping time, right? So if you want to minimize this speed which is coming back, you have to maximize the time. So that means net force delta T is equal to delta P, momentum. So from this we know that the product of the net force and the interaction time is called as impulse of net force. Impulse is nothing but it is the equivalent to change the momentum that an object experiences during an interaction. So force exerted over a limited time are called as impulsive force. The force which are exerted over a limited of time, okay, suppose you are having some time and you are just passing it over the limit of time. To stop, to reduce the speed, you are just increasing the time, you are just increasing the over limit of the time. That is nothing but it is impulsive force. Okay, suppose you are dropping an egg, you are having an egg. If you see in this picture, you can see that the egg is dropping onto the floor directly, then it breaks, isn't it? It breaks very easily and it starts spreading, right? So when we drop the egg on the concrete floor, it breaks because a large force acts on for the short interval of time. You're just dropping the egg, suddenly it falls onto the concrete floor, that is your ground, and because immediate force is exerted, reaction is very speed. So what is happening? The egg breaks with no time interval, okay, with a very short time of interval. Whereas if you are placing a cushion there in place of floor, you see that when the egg falls on the cushion, you see that the time here given by the reaction which is given by the cushion is less. It is less, and you see that the egg doesn't break. So it does not break because a smaller force acts on the because the smaller force exerted by the cushion is acting for a longer time, so it does not allow the egg to break. So with that we can write it as change in momentum is equal to F net into over limited, that is impulsive force. Okay. So if you see, the fielder catches a fast moving cricket ball by pulling back his arm while catching it. He just catches it by pulling back his arm. He pulls his head back, hands back while catching it, isn't it? If not, the ball will hit him. He get hurt. Yes, the ball stops only when your hand stops. This shows that the change in the momentum not only depends on the magnitude of the force, but also depends on the time during which the force is exerted. So with this, I hope it is clear. We have completed the laws of motion. Thank you for watching.